thought that we could talk about is how you went to the field of autism, and how was the process. Why did you want to become a BCBA? What courses have you take? Those kinds of things. So I will start from that. And where are you an American? Because Diogo told me that you were born in Cuba.
Yeah, so my family is Cuban. My family is Cuban, so that's why I speak Spanish. I was born here in the United States, and I always wanted to work with children. Honestly, I was probably 3 years old begging for like a chalkboard. Like I always wanted to be a teacher. I always wanted to work with children. And when I was about 13 years old, I had a project to like, where do you want to be in 10 years? Like, what do you want to do when you grow up type of project. And at that point, I was learning American Sign Language, and I was involved with the deaf community. So I wanted to have a dance studio for kids who were deaf. So that was like my first like dream. And when I went to college, that's what I was going to study, deaf education and work with children who were hard of hearing. And somewhere along the way in college, I changed majors. It was like education, occupational therapy, psychology. I changed majors a few times, but always with kids. Like I knew I wanted to work with kids. And when I
just one question, sorry. Why like you have this interest on deaf kids? Where did this came
Where did that come from?
Because it's not so usual.
It is random.
Unless you have someone in your family or something like that, but it's not really something really common.
Yeah, so when I was in middle school, so 8th grade here in the United States, my middle school had a deaf program. So we were one of the few middle schools in the area here in Miami that had like a dual program where kids who were deaf can be in our classes, like in an inclusion classroom. So a lot of my classes had interpreters in it who were signing during the class. And then by the time you got to 8th grade, before graduating, you could take an American Sign Language class as a foreign language credit. And since I already knew Spanish, I'm like, I don't want to do Spanish. I already know Spanish. I want to do sign language so I can like understand what the teachers over there like signing. So there was a lot of kids in the school that were deaf, and there was 2 girls in my dance team that were deaf. And because I was learning sign language and I would help them and like interpret for them during the dance class, that's where it all came from. That's where I was like, this is so cool. I love the language. I love the culture. Seeing these girls dancing and like really into music and performance, and how that like broke barriers. Like a lot of people were like, how can you dance if you can't hear the music? Like, you know, and they're like, no, I feel the vibrations, and that's how I can feel the music, and I can dance just like you, and I can express myself just like you. So that to me was just like eye-opening, and I was obsessed. I'm like, I need to do this when I grow up. Like I wanted to do that. So I didn't have anybody in my family, but just that experience at that young age, being around that culture, I thought it was just like fascinating. And I did sign language all the way from 13 until I graduated high school. Every year I took sign language as a course. I just loved it so much. And when I was in college, when I went back to my middle school and I did like volunteer work with the teacher who was my teacher, I went back to volunteer and get experience of like, what is it like to be a teacher for the deaf and like work in a school like that? And she showed me, it was an eye-opening experience for me. And I was like, you know what? This actually is not for me. I don't think I want to do this. I think I want to do it more as a therapy, like one-on-one, than in a classroom. Because in the classrooms, especially with the deaf community, it was a lot of like some children were hard of hearing and fine, like they were just hard of hearing, and then you had children that were hard of hearing and had other diagnosis as well that affected their IQ. And then you had other children that were deaf but came from other countries and knew Spanish sign language. So she had like this variety with very little help. And she's like, honestly, I teach to the 4 or 5 children that know sign language and are, you know, in this age group, are supposed to be in my class. Those are the only ones that are really learning. The rest, there's not much I can do because I don't have the support that I need. And I'm like, oh, I can't do this. Like, I don't think I can handle knowing that I'm not able to service like every child in my room at once.
Here, but there's nothing that I can do. Yes.
Yeah. And that feeling was frustrating to me. So that's when I pivoted into like psychology, therapy, like something more one-on-one. Okay. And I started changing into, I started seeing more things about autism.
Okay, let me just explain to us, please, because our educational system is totally different. I think that Diogo has told you a little about. And many people, they are really curious about how is the educational system in the US. That's why we always say that the whole BCBA thing, it's not adequate for Brazil because our educational system is totally different. So we can't put one thing in other country. I don't know. You should see. Diogo is here. He will say hi for you.
Hello, Audrey.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, and you?
Doing good.
Yeah.
Practicing your English. Good job.
I told her that you are improving, studying, improving, but you know how to communicate everywhere. So
no problem. No problem.
I told about Daniel, the story about.
Yes. I speak everybody.
Yeah,
no problem.
He's like, I'm going to talk to everyone. No problems. That's great.
Thank you.
Bye. Good to see you.
This is baby. A little guy here, one of our sons.
Oh my gosh.
Here, and I am telling him to come here and say hi. He studies English already. He has classes, but he's shy. Bye-bye. They are leaving. They are going to buy bread.
Oh,
yes. So I don't know how, probably in Cuba it should be different of the US. I don't know if it has a lot of difference, but here in Brazil is really different. So tell us, how is it in the US? Because we know it's what we see on the movies, on Netflix, on series. So explain to us, you get out of high school and you go to the university and you do like a general course. How is it?
Right. So there's different options. But what I personally did is to get what's called like the bachelor's degree. It's a 4-year degree.
Okay.
But some people do the full 4 years in one university. And some people split it 2 years and then 2 years. So what I did, I split it. So I did my first 2 years, which is all like the general courses. That's like all your general, your math, your science, all the basics, your first 2 years. From that's when I was an education major.
Like philosophy, sociology, you can.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You still have your electives. So my electives were all in education because that was my major. Like you pick your major.
Okay.
So all of my electives were for my major, but the rest of the courses are like the general courses that everybody has to take. Then I had to transfer for my other 2 years to get my bachelor's. So I transferred to a university. The first one was a college, what we call a college, like a community college.
Okay.
And then the second one was an actual like university. And there you pick your major again. And there I switched it to psychology. So I studied my second 2 years in psychology. When I graduated from that, I had a bachelor's degree.
Okay.
So I had courses in psychology, I had courses in education because I had split it. Once I graduated with my bachelor's, when I was trying to figure out what in psychology I wanted to do, I was volunteering in a language pathology lab where I would transcribe videos, and they were doing research on bilingual children.
Okay.
And I was doing that just to gain experience, gain hours, community service, and things like that. And I met this lady, and I'm like, she's like, what do you want to do in psychology? And I'm like, I'm not sure, but I know I want to work with children. I want to work with the special needs population, but I don't know what I want to do. And she goes, I think you will be amazing for applied behavior analysis, ABA. I'm like, what is that? We're talking 12 years ago. Okay. In the United States. It wasn't like a popular field.
And
so back then,
your 2 years of psychology, you had just something like something of Skinner behavior psychology. You had
no, nothing. No. So I mean, I knew about Skinner. I had already studied Skinner and Pavlov and like all of the psychologists that we would study. Right. Everything was theory. Okay. And then I had psychology of women, sociology, a lot of fascinating courses, a lot of mental health things too. So it was cognitive psychology. So studying all the mental health disorders, mental illness. And all of that was fascinating to me, but I didn't want to do that. I knew I didn't want to work with mental health. I liked learning it, but I didn't want to work in that field. I wanted to work specifically with children. And at this point, I was like curious about autism.
Okay.
And when that lady told me about applied behavior analysis, I didn't know anything. So she's like, Google it, look it up on YouTube. And I looked it up on YouTube. And that day, I watched maybe 3 videos. And I'm like, this is so me. This is what I want to do. So that very same day, I applied for graduate school. So graduate school is to get your master's degree, which is another 2 years after you graduate with your bachelor's. So there was a local school for me to do that.
Tell us now about what is the master, because what I feel talking to everyone is that the masters in the US is like our post-graduation in Brazil.
Yes.
Yes, because it's a 2 years course, and you have a bunch of, you will specialize on those area.
Exactly.
Because we also have the master and the doctoral, but they are different. So tell us, how is it the master that you took? I know that it could be differences between universities, but it has like something, it's a general thing in all, because it probably there are laws that it has to be those patterns. So it's a 2 years course. You apply it, and you did in person or online?
Online. My master's was 2 years, and then the only program that was available was an online program for that major, which I had to choose. Back then, there was no major of ABA. Like that was not an option. So this was the only school that you can pick a different major and you can specialize in ABA. So I picked, the only option was mental health counseling. So I was getting a master's in mental health counseling and specializing in ABA, which means you took the coursework that the BCBA, the board, requires to take, like a master's level courses. I think it's like 5 courses or something like that. So that was like added to my program, and I had to do hours of experience. So that had to be in a location that was approved by the university to provide like a curriculum, like a hands-on experience, field experience, for you to get into the field. So that's how it started. But quickly, the university that I was in realized that mental health counseling wasn't like a direct correlation to ABA and working with autism. So which, looking back now, I wish I would have stayed in the mental health counseling, because I do feel like a lot of our students, a lot of my clients with autism have other diagnoses that maybe if I would have stayed, I could better help and better understand that. But when it came out that I can switch to developmental disabilities as a major and then specialize in ABA, I'm like, oh, yes, like that's what I want to do, because I want to work with developmental disabilities. I don't want to work with mental health. So I switched. And then those courses were amazing, because there you learn about the laws for individuals with disabilities here in the United States. You learn about the history of all different types of developmental disability, rare ones and common one, autism being one of the most prevalent ones. So those courses were all online. And
how are those courses? You for example, you had classes twice a week, every day. You had your schedule of classes, because even that is totally different.
It's different.
Yes. For example, here when you do a post-graduation, like for example, I did an ABA post-graduation, a 2 years ABA post-graduation. I had classes once a month and on the weekends, like it was on Fridays and all the afternoon until night, and Saturday every day, just once a month. Our students in our post-graduation here, they study on their own pace, because it's not live classes, it's recorded. So they can study whenever they want, like the classes, they are there and they go as they want. But most post-graduations that are in person, they are like that, like just once a month. And I think that it's a bad thing, because just once a month you stay really tired, because on Saturday afternoon you are already
That's not what you want to do.
Yes, you are tired, you want to learn, but your body, it doesn't respond anymore. Sometimes you are not feeling well, so it was not a good thing. I like things that are more like every week, or at least once in 15 twice a month. It would be better. Right. So how is this? Because I know some people who teach in universities, and they have like courses that it's 3 months, and they have regular meetings like every week. So how was yours?
That's how mine was. It was every 3 months. You can choose how many classes you want to take. In a post-graduation setting, you wouldn't do more than like 3. You do 2 to 3 classes every 3 months. And in those 3 months that you're taking those 2 to 3 classes, your class is once a week for each one. So you might have a class and it's online. So you can you could attend the live with the teacher. So the teacher will give the lecture and you can raise your hand, ask questions, and it'll be once a week. Or if you cannot attend the live, then you can watch it recorded, but then it's harder because you can't really ask the questions that you want to ask. So it's better. And then you have to work on a thesis. Like you have to pick a topic and work on a thesis. So your whole last year of classes, almost all of your teachers are helping you put together your master's thesis. It's almost like a doctorate program, but easier. Because the research, you're not doing your own research, you are doing a research paper, but on research that's already like out there, and putting it together. And you get to pick whatever topic you wanted to.
You don't need to do a research like design a research on your own and collect
Correct.
data. You don't need.
Correct.
You can do something like a review of some theme, like a review on functional analysis, and you will put all together and review all the literature. It's like
correct.
Okay.
Correct. And so you had to pick a topic, and that was going to be your topic that you were researching that entire last year that you were in your master's program. And then at the end, you present like your thesis, which is, by this point, it's like a big book this big of all the research you've done. And I was doing it at that point in dance and music therapy for children with autism. And so, of course, in doing all of my research and creating this pretend program, by the time I graduated, I pretty much had everything I needed to develop my own program for real in real life. So it was a combination of taking classes every week for 2 years, different courses every 3 months, and doing my in-person experience as well.
Those classes were like 2 hours, 3 hours, something like that.
It depends. Yeah. Like some teachers, the meetings would be, I would say like 2 hours on average. The class would be like 2 hours. It wouldn't be more than that. And I typically wouldn't have more than one class that day. So it would be like on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, but the teacher would assign it in the beginning of the semester. So in the beginning of the semester, it'll be like our meetings are going to be every Monday at 6 p.m. And if you were able to attend, perfect. If you couldn't, you had to watch the recording. I look like a halo. Hold on.
Yeah. And did you have like tasks or work,
yes,
something like that?
Yes. So you had all of your assignments online. Okay. And every week you had discussion posts in every class. So they would assign like a research paper to read, and then you would have to discuss, like put your thoughts about the research article on the post, and all the students in your class can see it, and you had to respond to at least 3 people and start like a dialogue about that research article. And that was every class did that. You had to do discussion posts every week. We would do quizzes like twice a semester. So like your midterm and your final. And you had to do like research papers or different projects, like group projects. Oh, this window. I guess I'm just angelic right now. And then you would have like group projects, and you would pick different type of disabilities to present on and do research on. And all of this you have to do while you are getting your 1,500 hours of experience in person. And
how did you did your hours? It was on a center. How was all this part?
So back then, we're talking like more than 10 years ago. 10 years ago, 10 years. In 2011, I started with the field experience. And I started at a center that was right in front of my university. And they were amazing. There's a guy by the name of David Garcia, which is a big, famous guy in the world of ABA. And he started this company. And you had to train for like 3 months before actually getting hired and like working as a therapist. And his training was amazing. I received very, very good training, very good supervision from the staff there. I feel like everything I learned about ABA, I learned it there, honestly, more than in school. It was there.
You were hands-on and everything.
It was
combined
amazing.
Theory and practice.
Exactly. That was the most important part of my education. And then halfway through, I would say about a year and a half later, I switched over to a different company because, of course, me being like I want to be a teacher, there was an opportunity to be an ABA therapist in a school for kids with autism, and it was an inclusion school. So you had both. And so the kids would be like half of the day receiving therapy and the other half of the day in the classroom with other children that were not on the spectrum. So when I saw that model, I'm like, I have to do this. I want to go to a school. I want to be in that environment. I love being in a classroom. Like I want to switch from the clinical side to the school setting. I made the switch, and I wish I could have told you it was a good decision, but it was not a good school per se. That's all I'm going to say, but it was not a good experience. Overall, I feel like I helped the children as much as I could while I was there, but I did not have the education or the support of a supervisor, somebody watching me, teaching me, explaining to me, like holding my hand on what to do with these children. It was more so like, here, give them therapy, and like, you're going to do OT, you're going to do sensory integration, you're going to do ABA, you're going to do all of these things. And I'm like, that's so cool. I'm going to learn all of this. No. You're not going to learn. You're just like, that's your schedule. Go do it. But I didn't know any of that. So I would just do whatever I would find online and Google, and I would just do whatever I thought. And I would come up with things and try to be creative. And I started doing some dance classes for the kids while I was there. And that's where I was kind of just trying to figure out like how I wanted to work with this population. And I started my dance program during this time there with them, which I'm very grateful because they were very open to me doing this. But at that point, the experience was so bad that I left ABA completely. So I graduated with my master's, and I was like, wow, I just did all of this. I have all of my hours. I have my master's degree, and now I don't want to be a therapist. So it was like traumatizing. I was very disappointed in the field of ABA. I was like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. So I left, and at that point, I got married. I had my daughter, and I was focusing on my dance program for kids with autism, growing that.
You did the BCB, the test. You took the test before?
I did take the test straight out of college, and I failed it, but I didn't even study. I didn't even want to take it because I was like, I'm not going to use it. I don't want to do this, but I'm just going to take it. If I pass, great. If I don't, I don't care. And my husband kept telling me, don't do that. You know, you should have it, blah, blah, blah. And he kept telling me, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. I just want to do dance therapy. I just want to do dance. And at that point, I was working with, I was teaching dance adult classes, and I was working with the Aventura Dance Cruise, which is the world's largest Latin dance cruise. And there I was teaching samba. I knew a lot of Brazilians, and I started learning Portuguese. And I was working with a lot of international dancers and running the cruise for many years. I did that for 10 years. That was like a big passion, a big part of my life was the cruise and dancing and teaching dance classes for adults. and on the side having my dance program for kids with autism, and turning that into a nonprofit. So I was my focus was on that, being a mom, running the cruise, and doing my spectrum dance therapy. Yeah, it was a lot. And so I stopped for 3 years, and then I found myself very depressed, and I was not happy in my job, not because of the dancing, but because I felt like something was missing and I wasn't doing enough for the community that I want to serve. Felt like I should be doing more for my community. Like I went to school for this. Like I did so much sacrifice for this population. And just because the field of ABA was disappointing to me, the only way for the field of ABA to change is for people like me to say, no, I'm going to go back. I'm going to get my BCBA and I'm going to make a difference, and I'm going to do it my way. I'm not going to work for a company that I don't agree with what they're doing. I'm not going to work under a supervisor that I don't agree with what they're doing. I'm going to do it my way. And so at that point, I decided, okay, I'm going to go take my test and actually study for my test. And they denied me. They said it had expired. So apparently, when you get approved to take the exam, at least here in the United States, I don't know how it is in other countries, but they give you 2 years with that approval to take it and to pass it. And the task list changes every few years.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know. So my 2 years had expired.
Wow.
And the task list had changed. So now I had to go back to school. I had to go back to the university that I graduated from and take courses and pay out of pocket a lot of money to go back, because I was not seeking a degree.
A new coursework, not the master.
There was what they did, which I was so happy that they did this for me, which is why I went back to the university that I went to, is that I was missing one course, which was ethics.
Okay.
And I was missing hours, that's it, hours of all the other courses. So not even like in other universities, I would have had to take the same classes that I took before. I would have had to take them all over again just for the missing section.
And pay for them,
and pay out of pocket for all of them, because I was not looking for a degree. I was not going to graduate again. Yeah. I just needed to take the course. So what they did at the university is they created a bridge course, which created like one course with all the hours that were missing in all those little subject areas. So that was one course. And then my other course was the full course of ethics that I was missing completely. So I just had to take 2, thankfully.
Right. Yeah.
But it was still very expensive. And I went back. I did those 2 years. I quit my job at the dance cruise, which was very hard for me to do, since I was there since I was 19 years old, like working with them. It's family. That to me was my family. And I had to leave to go back to to me, these are my babies. Like I need to do more for them. So I decided to go back to working as a therapist. I felt like I was starting from scratch now, all over again, going back to school. I felt like I was going backwards. But I found a company that was very, very good. And they showed me what ABA is supposed to be and how to do it properly and how you can do it in a school properly. And I fell in love with it all over again. I was so fueled to become a BCBA. I finished that course, those 2 courses, and then I started studying for my test. And it took about, I want to say a whole year, from like going back to school to then studying for the test to then taking the test and finally passing the test. And then getting credentialed with the insurance companies takes another, so it was honestly, if not a year, more than a year long process.
It's not just have the BCBA, the process of the insurance companies is another process The BCBA is just a part of this process, right?
Right. So you need to apply to be a provider, so that the insurance, when you bill the insurance for the service that you're doing, they pay for you to be a provider under them. But there's a ton of different insurance companies, and some of them approve you right away, and some of them take 4 months to approve you. So until you start getting those approvals, you cannot really work with the children as a BCBA. I had to continue working as a therapist in that time, like working directly with the children, which I loved. So I didn't care. And then finally all of that was over, and I finally was able to step into the role of BCBA. I switched companies to a different company that did a lot of work in the schools. They had contracts with schools here, public schools here in South Florida. And I loved it. And the pandemic hit like right away. It was like 2 months of me being a BCBA in the schools doing what I loved, and the pandemic happened. But thankfully, I've been very lucky with the company that I work for now, that they switched quickly to telehealth. And I've been able to stay home with my daughter, do telehealth therapy online completely, and be home with her and run my program still. So it's like I'm running a lot of different things, but all from home now. And it's so rewarding to still be able to make that impact, even now being home during this pandemic.
But you will probably get back like after summer or before, because the school year is still on until June, right?
Yes.
And things is still not got back.
No.
In person, no.
There are some students that are back in person, but very little bit. And my daughter's very little. She's 5 years old. And since I'm working from home, it didn't make sense to send her back to school to be wearing a mask, to be isolated from her peers at such a young age. I feel like that causes more trauma than unless you have to, like, unless you don't have a choice, then she would have gone back to school. But the fact that I'm home, I did have a choice to keep her home. And so I've been homeschooling her this whole year, and she doesn't want to go back to school. She's like, I want mommy to be my teacher forever.
But probably after and at the new school year,
in August,
you all be getting back and probably already be vaccinated.
Yes. Well, I went today. I just got my second dose today. So I'm vaccinated. My husband is vaccinated and my family is too. So that's one less thing to hopefully an extra step to go back to normalcy at some point.
We are hoping that we're a little behind. Brazil is really bad at this point, like really, really bad. We are at the worst. I was saying to Diogo today that, oh God, we have some tickets to fly to the US. And I was telling him that I think that we will be able to use just on December from next year.
Oh no.
The way that, I told him, oh God, the way that things are, because I don't want to go on summer. I want to go on in the winter. So I said, oh God, I think that it's just December of 2022. The way that things are, I don't think that we will be able to enter in any country, because Brazil is like a mess. It's really bad. So, but we are hoping and waiting that all this will pass. But
and how is the process in Brazil to become a BCBA?
So we don't have like we don't have a organ like the board. because the board in the US, correct me if I am wrong, but the board is a private organizational. In Brazil, by our laws, we are a private organization. They can't dictate or direct a profession. Just the government can do that. And they have some organs that here they are like the board, but they are like, they have public power to organize a profession. So we would need to create those like these boards, this kind of board, and then this board would be able to organize the profession. So we have, for example, the psychology board and the speech pathology board. We have the pedagogy board. But each of these boards, they run their own professions. We have laws that create that profession, and everything it's organized by laws. But we cannot have like a private association we have some associations in Brazil that are associations of behavior analysis, but they are just associations. They can't do nothing. They have no power for nothing. So that's our laws. That's why the BACB could never come to Brazil, because they are not according to our laws. And in one point, I understand that we have to regulate the service. This is the BACB was created to regulate, to give more protection for the ones who receive this service. And I think that it's great. But we need to have something that it's right according to our educational system. And we need to have things that are not personal. So things in Brazil, I think Latinos, I do a certification on parent training. It is with people from Seattle. And I tell this for them, Latinos, they are more like, things are more personal. They take things more passionately. I think that you probably have this experiencing talking to people. So we can't have that. When you are regulating a profession, I can't say that, oh, I accept you because you are my friend and I like you, but I don't accept you because you are not my friend and I don't like you. So things are not like that. And so that's why I have many strong, I have strong opinions against the BACB in Brazil, because they are not according to our laws.
It doesn't match. Yeah,
it doesn't match. And like, not everyone could have a master. Like a master in Brazil, when you do I did a master, I did a post-graduation, and I did a master. If I had done my education in the US, like online, I could have done that, but I didn't have the knowledge for that. On another day, I can tell you about my story in the masters. But the master in Brazil is to prepare you to do research and teach in universities. So it's for research and universities. And
so that's like our doctorate. Our doctorate is for research and to teach in universities. A master's does not get you there.
Yes, and the research is more like on labs with rats and pigeons. Well, like we don't really have lots of programs that the university attends people, serves people. And I think that this is wrong, because they receive money. And I know that animal research is important, that's okay, but we are a third country. So we need to serve people. People receive their money on their scholarships. And we need to do something for the society in return of that. And public universities, they don't do that. They receive the monies, they send people to the US to do the scholarships, to go to ABI and those kinds of things. But how they are serving people?
The actual people in their community.
Their community.
Yeah.
Yes. Someone needs to do that. So, okay, we have some people who go to research on labs with rats and pigeons, and okay, but we need to have someone serving community and do research in clinical settings, and we don't have that. So I am strongly against, because I know that people need this service, and we only have scholarships like just for theory. And we need to do something on practice. Okay, theory is really important. I know that the people need research. It's on basic research that comes the applied research. Okay, that's okay. But we need someone. We need to share the resources. So that's what I think that it's really bad. So when someone goes to do a master here, they don't learn anything on practice. They don't learn like applications of verbal behavior. They will read the book.
The VB map?
No, they won't even read the VB map. They won't study any of this. They will study they will read what Skinner wrote. And start discussing, what Skinner was thinking about when he wrote that, and Chomsky, he did not agree. And those kinds of discussion that will lead anywhere. Like for children, like when Skinner wrote everything that he wrote, he never thought about autism and all of those things.
Right.
So they don't. People are just theorists and not people. Many people who teach on doctoral programs, they have never put a hand on a child. They have never saw a tantrum and someone doing really bad behaviors. So it's just theory. They don't even know how to apply those theory.
And it's applied behavior analysis.
Yeah. and people here say, to be a ABA therapist, you need to do a master. You need to have a master. And I say, okay, where you will have your master? Is it here in Brazil? Because if it is, please don't do it. You will lose your time. Maybe you will have to work less in your clinical setting or in your school, and you will not learn. So why do you want to do a master? I always ask this, because I didn't learn what I learned with my master. I have learned nothing with my master, and I did the research. I did the research, I designed a research, I trained parents using the BST behavior skills training. I had to pass all of that, and it was really bad experience. I stayed depressed. I had to take meds. I had to do lots of therapy. I really was anxiety. So it was really bad for my health. I had a really bad timing doing a master, like a master in this format, the Brazil theory, really just theory, and really people are really precious. I don't know how to say that in English, but they are really precious about concepts, and you need to say everything really right, and things really academic. And unfortunately, or that's a good thing. That's not what the kids need.
Right. Exactly.
So that's why I like to prepare people for the practice, and why the master is not a good, like if I send my documents to the BACB, like without a master, they will not approve my post-graduation as a master. Because what I did in my post-graduation, it was what you did.
Right, exactly.
It was the same thing, but I have post-graduation, you have master. So they will not evaluate that in this way. So that's why it doesn't match. It's not adequate to our
that wouldn't work. And so then who is working with the children? Who are the people that are actually providing therapy of ABA in Brazil?
Okay, here we have especially psychologists, because people from psychology, not everyone, but it has a part of people who they think that ABA is a property of psychology. So if you are an SLP or OT or from education, you cannot be an ABA therapist. Like they say that, like this is already something that people, they don't buy anymore. They know that it's not true. The board of psychology already said, oh, ABA is not from psychology. It's not a field that us as a board of psychology, we don't
and you can't regulate that.
Yes. So this is not the same. Now people, but it, unfortunately, we have people who still believe that, because we have like big people saying that. And you know, when you say something many times, in the end, people think it's true. So, but it's not. But here we have people who are SLPs, from education, psychologists, physiotherapists, OTs, usually people from education and health these people do and a post-graduation in ABA. And they become an ABA therapist.
So it's almost like you're a speech therapist specialized in ABA, an OT specialized in ABA, so they do both.
Yeah. Sometimes they are like sometimes they are hired to be an ABA therapist. Sometimes they are hired to be an SLP. It depends on their role in this case that they are hired, or someone they build a practice and no, I will do ABA therapy on my service, and I have a team of RBTs. Here we don't call RBTs. Here we call, how can I translate that? But it's something like, in Portuguese would be atendente terapêutico.
Yeah, so he like an assistant therapist.
Yes.
Or we used to, like when I started, there was no RBT. It was a behavior assistant. That's what you were, a BA, a behavioral assistant. So those therapists, how do they become that? Like, what do they have to do
they usually do a post-graduation, and then we go, like, you can do a good post-graduation, like a 2-year post-graduation where we have all the contents that you need to have. Like in our post-graduation, our course is all the BCBA task list. Is the 5th task list since 2018. We already used the 5th task list, and we added some things that are adequate for Brazil. So like laws, inclusion.
Yeah, of course,
laws,
like the things that makes sense for Brazil.
Yes. Something that's adequate, because like the code of ethics is not adequate to our culture.
Correct. Yeah, that makes sense.
Totally out of the box here.
Yeah.
So, but they are not obligated to do supervision hours, for example. We have a practice where I provide supervision for them. We discuss cases, but I am not their supervisor. Like, I'm not responsible for their cases, but I am here to discuss the cases, give my opinion based on literature, on research, and other colleagues, they can give their opinions, because we have SLPs, OTs, psychologists.
I kind of like that, though. I kind of like that all, like the educators, not all, but the ones that choose, who are like educators or speech or OT, that they have that education as well and can integrate that into their practice, where here it's very separate. Like your teachers don't know about ABA, your speech don't know ABA, your OT doesn't know ABA. It's all so separate, and then they don't want to work together.
Yeah.
So there should be like a nice balance between what you guys are doing with having a postdoc that is related to speech, OT, and education, and what we do with the practicum and the therapist and going up to the BCBA level and that being a separate option. But I think that would be so cool to see it almost like what we're doing and what you guys are doing like together would be an awesome solution for the kids.
That's something cool that we do. So they don't need to have like X hours of supervision, because we don't have that in any, just on med school. That I think that people need to have that, but
like the residency
but
hands-on.
Like, here we just like when we are in grad school, you need to do an internship,
right?
That's all. But you don't need to do something so hands-on as the supervision of for the BCBA. We have some professions that we have tests here, like law. You need to pass your board exam, med school, but I don't know of any other profession that it has this model. So I think that what I say is that people, they need to be ethical and do and ask for help if they don't if they're not comfortable on doing what they are required to do. So they need to ask for help. This is what I say, but they are not obligated to. So I cannot say that someone is obligated when they are not. So this is not ethical from my part to say, oh, you are obligated to have a supervision when you are not. We don't have laws for that. I cannot dictate the laws.
Right.
I need to provide the right information, the truth. And what I ask for everyone, please be ethical, because you have lives on your hands. So you are responsible for their lives, for their development. So please be responsible. And so, but that's what I can do, what I can ask. I cannot say, because here we have a market of supervision. So people, they make money doing supervision for people, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's okay. But I cannot say, if you don't do it, you will punish it by home. Like, what are you?
What's gonna be the punishment? You're gonna remove what license? What, you're gonna take away my degree? Like, you can't.
Like, go to the police. Like, it's not a right thing to do. So that's what I like to clarify and say, okay, in the US like that, in the UK is like that. Like, each country, they have their own laws, and we need to say for people the truth and say for them, okay, now it's your turn. You decide what do you want to do. Like, people can do like a post-graduation in 6 months here in Brazil. It has these kinds of courses that it doesn't even have the classes that it was supposed to have in ABA courses, and they will receive the certificate of ABA. But this is in every field. Like, you can do a good course or a bad course. Like, it's your responsibility. Like, you will choose. If you choose something just because of money, or because it's quicker, doing
easy, faster.
Yes, like, it's your decision. I'm sorry, but I can't help you with that. So that's what we try to do, and provide a really good basis of courses. But this take longer. Maybe it will cost more money because it's more hours of classes. So that's what we do. But each one, they have their power to decide what they want. So
I like that. I mean, I'm sure it's good and it has its bad, but I think overall you're doing a great job in working with the laws, working with the culture of Brazil, and you've done an amazing job in educating so many people in your country and outside of the country. It's fascinating. I'm so glad I met you, and I want to do another call with you because I want to ask you like a bunch of questions.
Yes, me too. Please,
yes, so we'll stay in touch too. I would like to do like an interview, if you're okay with it, on my Instagram, where I ask you some questions, because I think it's important to see the difference. Like, I've learned so much just from what you've said. And I've always felt like in the United States, we could do better in our fields. I feel like the more strict our ethical code becomes, we are actually providing worse service to our people. We're like dehumanizing it. We're like making robots. It's so impersonal. And living in Miami, where everybody is Hispanic for the most part, it clashes. Like, my ethical obligation and my cultural, it doesn't match. Like you said, like in Brazil, like it wouldn't work. It doesn't work.
Like, you cannot accept like a gift from a parent. This is so rude here.
Yes, like, exactly. If I go to a house and abuelita wants to give me a cafecito and I say no because, you know, like, she's insulted. That's so rude. Yeah, exactly. So I'd love to speak more with you on a different day. I'm so glad I met you. I love everything Brazilian culture. So I'm excited to know somebody in Brazil at the moment. That's so cool. And thank you for reaching out to me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And please, let's schedule another call for you to tell us about the dance, because we did not have the time to talk about everything about dancing, because I'm super curious and to know about that. And I know lots of people in Brazil who will love to know about Yes.
That'll be amazing to do some dance programs over there. Oh my gosh, and music is such a big part of your culture. That would be so awesome. Yeah.
Okay, so let's keep talking and let's schedule that.
Sounds good. And happy World Autism Acceptance Day.
Yeah. Thank you
so much, Michelle.
Bye-bye. See you.
You too. Bye-bye.